Hello, my name's Terri Lee-Shield. I'm host at Love School. I'm popping on today to do an ad hoc video talking a little bit about emotional regulation and why it's so important at the moment that we learn how to understand, process, express, and then regulate our emotions. This is in preparation because I am launching a special program I've designed at Love School called Emotional ER, which is about emotional expression and regulation. I have written some brilliant blog posts, which I will link in the description below if you want to have a little bit of a look through, read a little bit more. But for now, I just want to talk a little bit about how the content I'm creating, the program that I'm launching, is so relevant for how we are changing as individuals, how we are evolving as a collective, and just the shift in the energy and the future that we want to create in the world. We're going through some really drastic times at the minute. And the way the world has been organized for a very long time is based on this idea of logic, of structure, of reason, very masculine in its qualities. And it's kind of moved to an extreme now where I live in the UK and it almost feels impossible to move through the world as a human being anymore, especially if you're wanting to access support, particularly services that are run by our government structures, so social services, um, things like the NHS, our social support systems, justice systems, all of them pretty much, because they're all kind of clinging on to this idea of control and order. Especially now we're kind of inviting in AI into our world, which is another form of intelligence, but programmable intelligence. And there seems to me like there's just this energy that is it's coming from this forced structures. It almost has to happen, I think, to balance the universal energies, to balance society. It's kind of like emerging through people, some people, awake and aware people, creative people, neurodiverse people, that are just fighting against the order and control without the war. And actually, one of the ways that we do that is by embracing chaos, by embracing our humanity and what makes us human, which is that we are complex beings, that we are feeling beings, that we have these other abilities that have been suppressed for so long. Our intuition, our sixth sense, if you like, our psychic abilities, our telepathic abilities, and all of those abilities, all of the ways that we pick up information from the world and process it is through our emotions. Sometimes, yes, we might use our mind, but I like to very much see our mind as a tool. When we get stuck in our mind, we're very much stuck in this ego state and we're trying to fix and solve problems because our mind is brilliant at that, picking up patterns, solving problems. And when we don't use it as a tool, things can get a little bit confused. However, our imagination is really important when processing emotions because it's this relationship between emotion and the energy that's flowing through us, emotions, emotions. The energy that's flowing through us isn't a logical, rational thing. The energy that flows through us that creates emotions speaks a different language. It's a felt language. It's a moving language. And we process it through harnessing our creativity, through tapping into the sensations in our body by picking up signals that are felt and not seen. However, when we haven't been taught this, we intentionally not taught this at schools. In fact, schools do the opposite, don't they? Schools and workplaces very often want us to sit still, pay attention, focus, when actually we can learn in so many ways. We learn through play, we learn through interactions, we learn through how something feels in us, how our body's responding to something, where our energy is lifted. And by tapping us out of this innate wisdom, because emotional intelligence is the foundation of all natural life, all other living beings, well, animals, we'll say. We'll not get off on one about the consciousness of plants, but all other animals trust their emotions. You know, a deer feels fear and it darts off. An animal feels safe and it begins to make a home, make a nest. These like emotional responses are innate in us. They're innate in our bodies, and our bodies are the conduit, the channel, if you like, to take all of the stimulus that is coming from the external world and understand it and how that relates to us and our survival and our thriving. And as the world is changing, we are going through a massive energetic shift at the minute. We're going through a massive shift in consciousness. We are moving into more of a felt reality. People talk about a lot by like 5D and all this sort of thing, because it's much more of a feeling, heightened, energetic phase of humanity we're moving into. As humans, we mastered surviving the body. We've mastered the mind and intelligence and all this technology we can create. Now we are being supported to master the world of energy and harness that energy to elevate and evolve ourselves. However, if we do not know how to understand, process, and regulate our own emotions, it can actually be used as a weapon against us. We kind of know this. Anyone who's aware or awake or who has experienced trauma, abuse, neglect, knows that our emotions are used as a weapon against us. Fear is used to control us. Our stress responses are used to direct us in certain ways and almost predict how we're going to respond. And these heightened emotions take a toll, energetic toll on our body, on our mind. So much so that we've even been like conditioned to think that if you have emotions at all, or your emotions are confused, that you've got a mental health problem. That's a whole other video on things, but it's something I feel really strongly about, because having emotions is not a problem. The problem is not understanding our emotions, not listening to our emotions, not knowing how to process our emotions, how to get to the messages that our emotions are trying to tell us. Once we can understand our emotional world better, we can actually use our emotions as messengers to navigate through life, to make choices, to see the truth of situations. We all know that sometimes what people say isn't, aligned with necessarily the truth of what's going on. People lie, people manipulate, and we often get that gut feeling, don't we? We feel like something's off, but we ignore it because we've been mentally conditioned to pick up different signals other than what our emotions and intuition are telling us. The reason why when we have trauma experiences, like I say, abuse and neglect, our nervous system is heightened. We can become emotionally dysregulated, because it can get entangled in all sorts of past events, complex trauma, just a lack of trust for ourselves and our innate ability. We can get trapped in our egos, in our minds, trying to make sense of things, when actually what would serve us better is to be able to feel what is going on and respond. to be able to feel something and then know how we can process all them feelings to get to the root and find our truth in it and make an informed decision. It has been a massive part of my healing and recovery journey to understand my emotions, to build my emotional intelligence, to understand how to process and communicate my emotions, and also as like a highly sensitive, intuitive person, be able to understand what's my emotions and what emotions I'm picking up from other people. When I try and think back, it was a mess. My emotional world was a mess. I didn't even know the difference between a thought and emotion, really, when I think back. Really had to like learn the difference between our thoughts, our reactions, our responses, our trigger responses, our nervous system, and unpack my entire emotional world. Now I've done that, I feel really passionately about sharing the tools I had to develop for myself and my experience and my wisdom to support other people to find their emotional freedom, to be able to learn how to understand their emotions, to use that for their healing, to recover from trauma, and also to evolve, to grow as a person, to build emotional intelligence, and then be able to make better decisions as we move into this 5D reality, this more energetic evolution of humanity that is going to rely on us being able to use our emotions and our emotional intelligence to navigate through life, to know where we should walk away, to know what we should move towards, and what's going on in ourselves, what's best for us as individuals. Because actually, what might seem best for the collective might not be working for us as individuals at all. Learning to be able to regulate that within us, to find a sense of peace, to find a baseline of calm, so that when new emotions come in, we're aware of them, we can respond to them, and we know, like I say, what to do to work through that emotion, to get the message from it, and then release it back to calm. There are many ways to process our emotions. And as I said, emotions are a feeling, tactile, sensual language. And the way we have to process that is through tapping in to that sort of language, through our creativity, through understanding our body and how our body is feeling, from being able to trace back the connection between an emotional response and our thoughts, and maybe it's redirecting that through our imagination to get to our subconscious mind, so we can look at the ways we've been programmed to figure out, is this an old emotion that's coming up? Have I been triggered by something? Am I actually safe in this environment right now where I am at? And there's lots of tools you can use in order to do that, from journaling, dance, movement, painting, art, all sorts of the arts. That's why art was created by humans, because we're emotional, expressive beings. There are all sorts of ways to actually process our emotions, and each of us will have our own blueprint, if you like, for experiencing and processing emotions. And once we can understand that, we can pick and choose how to process the emotion that's arising in a healthy way, get the message that we need from it, and be able to re-regulate. This ability to re-regulate our emotions is what is going to help us to get ahead in life and stay safe. Because I have a really strong intuition that our emotional world is going to become very dysregulated by external influences, because we're not going to be able, more and more, we're not going to be able to be expressing as openly through the systems that we're ultimately relying on to support us as we move into the future. With the increase in AI, with the increase in non-tactile. I don't know if that's exactly the right word I'm looking for. Relations with each other. For example, the NHS in the UK is a great example. There's been some massive changes in the NHS in the past few years. It is pretty much almost impossible to get a face-to-face meeting with a doctor or a nurse. Before, now it's all via the telephone, it's via messaging, it's via these non-physical forms of communication, which basically take out that emotional, intuitive connection that humans have always thrived with. And just due to the nature of that, where our emotional connection to each other, our telepathic and our energetic interactions with each other are going to be so limited and stifled. And as I said, more and more, as we're introducing AI more and more into our society, it can kind of force all of this emotional energy into our internal world. And without having an outlet for that, without being able to process that, I think it's going to become really dysregulating. And that dysregulation can then have a knock-on effect on how we're thinking, our mental health, how we're feeling, our emotional and spiritual well-being, our energy levels, leading to more and more chronic ailments, physical diseases. That ripple effect of what happens when you're trying to trap energy somewhere that still exists, because you can't destroy energy. Energy needs to be transferred, it needs to be transmuted, it needs to be moved on. And when we're being forced to kind of keep that all in, on, and around us, that's what can cause a lot of the problems, internal health and well-being problems that are on the rise in society. So I'm going to stop this video there because I could go on and on about this for a little while. But I have put together an emotional ER program, which is a 6-week experience where there'll be a course, there'll be a guided course where we will go through different ways of tapping into emotional energy and learning how to express emotions through our creativity, but also using non-violent communication, which is a way of identifying our feelings and needs, making observations of what's really going on in a situation to get very clear about using our mind as our tool, as an observing tool, and then understanding our feelings, our needs, and being able to express that to others in an empathic, compassionate way. That means we're not placing blame, we're not externalizing our experiences and give our power away to other people, and learning how to make requests to have our needs met in order to re-regulate our emotional experiences and navigate through life in truth. Because when we understand our emotions, when we can regulate, and when we are more comfortable and confident expressing our authentic selves from an honest perspective, we find our life improves, our health improves, our well-being improves. So in this 6-week experience, we're going to look at that, and it includes one-to-one support with me, and it also includes group sessions where we can come together and share. Unfortunately, this is online. Fortunately and unfortunately, I would love to be able to do this in person, but I want to open it out to see who's interested. So we'll do it online, and at least there'll be some sort of human-to-human interaction, even if it is through the screen. This experience is up now. It's going to be starting in October. I have written some brilliant blogs that kind of explain in a little bit more detail about NVC, nonviolent communication, and how to express your needs. Another blog is about just the importance of emotional expression. And another blog that I've done is about how to process your emotions. I'll link all of this stuff in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. If you're interested in this sort of content, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to start making more content again for YouTube as I'm inspired mainly. I'm not the most organized of folks. But I am getting back to creating content again. So if you've liked this message, if you've liked this sort of content and you're really interested in natural holistic healing, especially if you are a trauma survivor, if you have overcome abuse and neglect, or you're struggling to, if you are neurodiverse, if you have anxiety, depression, or any sort of trauma symptoms, this is the place to be. I'm going to help you to understand how to navigate a natural healing process holistically, that supports all areas of your life. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about what I've said. If there's something that you would like me to make a video of in more detail, again, let me know and I will try and create some content around it. Thank you for being here.